Good evening and welcome to what is the sixth and final round of the Super Formula Renault Championship. We are due for 60 minutes of racing at Okayama. The championship is still yet to be decided, so we're in for 60 minutes of hot racing action. We have been to various circuits this season. Circuits like Suzuka, Sugo, and Twin Ring Motegi. We still have 3 contenders within reach of the championship. So let's have a look at what we're in for tonight. So we are using the Super Formula Renault car. It was used for, I believe, the Formula Nippon series, now renamed the Formula Renault 3.5. It's now a defunct series, but still a nippy little car. So as I said, we are at Okayama today. Okayama still hosts the Super GT, the Porsche Carrera Cup Japan, and the GT World Challenge Asia series. It is quite a tight circuit. We are using the Okayama layout, not the Ada layout, which was around 93 and 94. But 13 turns, quite flat, but it's still a tight and challenging circuit. It's going to be very, very difficult to pass, I imagine. So, as I said, it's a tight championship battle at the top. If we look at our standings, we can see that Robin Taylor is at the top of the table with 171 points, with Costas Kantsouras not far behind on 159, and Mate Daxtobler 1 point adrift of second place with 158. I believe that fourth place is too far adrift to be able to catch the leaders. But second, third and fourth may change positions. So if we look at the points available, there's 40 for first, 36 for second, 30 for third, and then 28, 26, 24, etc. So if we have a look at the championship predictions, this is what may happen. So if we look at the predictions, Robin Taylor could win the championship. All he needs to do is finish ahead of Kantsouras and Daxtobler, and he will be champion. But if Kantsouras wins, Taylor needs to finish 4th or higher. If Daxtobler wins, he needs to finish 5th or higher. Now, Kantsouras does have a chance of the championship, but he has to finish 1st, and Taylor is 5th or lower. If he finishes 2nd, Taylor has to be 7th or lower. And if he finishes 3rd, Taylor has to be 9th or lower, but finishing ahead of Daxtobler in all of those predicaments. So Daxtobler has the slimmest chance of the championship this evening, but it's still possible. A retirement could happen. You never know. So Kantsouras, if he finishes first, Daxtobler rather can win the championship if Kantsouras finishes 2nd or lower, Taylor 6th or lower. Finishing 2nd, Kantsouras 3rd or lower, Taylor 8th or lower. And if he finishes 3rd, Kantsouras has to finish 4th or lower, and Taylor 10th or lower. So it's an outside chance, but anything can and will happen tonight. So practice is underway at the moment. Let's head out on track to see who's setting the fast times. Right, let's get our tower up so we can see who is who. There we go. So, qualifying is in about 10 minutes. So we'll see what kind of times people are put in. So we've got Kantsouras at the top of the tower at the moment with a 113.9. Again, don't know if people are doing fuel runs or qualifying runs. But the circuit is rather tight. It's got a lot of corners which drop downhill quite quickly. Lots of switchback corners which are hard to pass on, especially in Sector 2. As you see Nick Westy coming through the latter half of the circuit. So Kanzura is coming down what we'll probably refer to as the back straight. Around the hairpin corner. Up to Revolver corner. Down short straight up to Redmond corner. Well, in fact, this is Redmond corner coming up now. And then you switch back, coming a bit uphill into Hobbs corner. It's really laying on the rubber. Oh, a bit too much. He would be heading to Mike Knight corner. And then the aptly named last corner. So if we're looking at Struhl with the very imaginative paint job. We won't miss that in a hurry. Nice and purple. 5th in the tower at the moment. So Carl Struhl is currently 7th in the championship. It's very consistent with results. Not trouble with the podium at all. It's been a very competitive field in this championship. And Robin Taylor is at the top because he has been very consistent. When he hasn't won at all this season. But it's the consistency that has is meaning that he's leading the championship. Another top runner is Tony Talviti. He's only been in this championship for 3 rounds. He won round 3. Unfortunately, he did have rather a scrappy round last time out at Twin Ring Motegi. As you can see, he's gone purple in Sector 2, so it looks like he was pushing on to try a qualifying run. So there's only been 3 winners this season. Kantzuras has 1 win. Dat Skobler has 1 win also. Nick Westy has 2 wins. And Tony Talviti has 1 win. But Tony Talviti is down 10th in the championship. But what we've heard from interviews from Tony, he just wants to win. He's not really concerned about championship points. He just wants to win. And I appreciate that. As Carl comes across the line, I believe it should only be 1 or 2 passing places, maybe down the back straight. We see Costas coming down the back straight towards hairpin corner. It's dropped slightly downhill into the hairpin. And slightly uphill and then downhill again to Revolver corner. It's a bit bumpy through there. You really need to keep it tight onto the curbs. Then the short straight down to Redmond corner. In fact, that's Piper corner. I'm always getting those ones mixed up. Up the short straight. Coming out of Hobbs corner. Mike Knight corner. Now, as we've seen from previous layouts of Okayama, when it was the Ada circuit, the entry to pit lane was a little bit different. So in this layout, you've got to be very tight with your entry to pit lane, because it is just before the last turn. But the first section of the circuit is pretty much flat out until you come down to the Atwood corner. So this is Dat Skobler, 3rd in the championship at the moment. Now you do wonder whether there is going to be team orders between Nick Westy and Robin Taylor. Nick Westy, as I said, is 4th in the championship. He doesn't really have chance of the championship, but he can probably help Robin Taylor. So I wonder if they've actually spoke about that. So we see Kantzuras making his way through the latter part of the circuit, followed by Robin Taylor, who's purple in all 3 sectors at the moment. So this He's possibly going for a top practice time. Not by much though. He may beat a 1:13.9. Pushing on. So a 1:13.3 is the fastest time at the moment. So that last sector was pretty fast. As I said, Robin Taylor has not finished in first place this season, but he hasn't been off the podium in all 5 rounds. He's got 5 in all 5 rounds. He's got 3 third places and 2 second places, so very, very consistent. That's what's probably going to win in the championship tonight. So he's just got to keep it clean. He could settle for finishing off the podium, depending on what happens with his championship contenders. So he doesn't really need to push it, but whether or not he does that, we will have to see. Now, with his championship contenders, Kanzurus and Datskobler have been a little up and down in their results. Kanzurus has 1 third place and 1 win this season. The rest of he got 2 fourth places and a 6th place, I believe. Datskobler has got 1 win this season, which was the first race. A very commanding victory. But since then, he hasn't troubled the podium at all. He's had a lot of trouble at the starts. His highest finish has been a 4th place. So 3 fourth places, a 5th place and a win. Thankfully he has quite a distinctive paint scheme, so I can actually tell who's who. This comes through sector 3 of the up and down nature of the Okayama circuit, and he's practicing a pit in. So pit in is actually on the entry to what is the penultimate turn. And you really have to be careful on pit entry. Looks like it's downhill. I believe when it was previous iterations of the circuit, the pit entry was a lot slower. But we were going to be very wary of drivers coming into the pits on their on their race laps. There is a mandatory pit stop, so cars will be changing tyres. There is no fuel stops in these cars at all. So we've still got Taylor leading away with a 1:13.3. And Kanzurus will 0.6 back. We'll be switching over to quali in about 3 minutes. So it's good to see that Kanzurus is putting in some quali-based, quali speed rather, times. He didn't fancy finishing that lap, so maybe he's not showing his hand too early there. That was a purple sector at the start as Robin Taylor's coming out of the pits for another run. So if you've been here since the beginning, then you'll know that there are, as Nick Westy actually puts in a fastest time there, 1:13.14. The rules with Sim Racing Online is that in qualifying they have to do a full qualifying run. So they have to do a pit out, however many laps they want to do, and a pit in. You can't stop out on circuit. I think a couple of people fell foul of that rule. And we've got 9 drivers at the moment. We were hoping for maybe about 12. But we do sometimes have some latecomers into qualifying. This is quite an early start for some of these drivers. If we look down the list, we do have multiple nationalities as well, not just British drivers. We have a few Americans, one Finnish driver in Tony Talviti, so we're winding down the laps of practice. It looks very tight at the top. Both teammates could be hogging the front row, and it looks like we are just about to roll over to qualifying. Drivers still putting in purple sectors. It looks like they're going to have to be very, very careful. Looks like it is still bumpy. Or it's the elevation changes that are catching them out, or rather maybe the high curbs. Last time at Twin Wing Motegi, the bumps were causing a few problems for the drivers. But I think drivers have got to be very, very patient with where they pass and how they pass. You don't really want to be blocking the track in the early laps. But we'll see who goes all out. It's normally jam-packed action for the first half an hour. And then the race does settle down in the last 30 minutes when everyone has done their stops. So, switching over to qualifying. So, we have a track temperature of 21.9 degrees. That is an air temperature, rather, of 21.9 degrees. And a track temperature of 43. So, it's rather warm. Rather warm in Japan. As Nick Westy is the first to make it to the line. Wants to be out in front. With no distractions. So Nick Westy going for pole. His teammate just behind. And looks like that might be Dat Skobler in third there. Robin Taylor is letting him through. Let's follow Nick Westy going through the first few curves with Williams' turn. Through the Moss S. Up to the Atwood curve, which goes uphill and onto the short straight. Down to hairpin corner. Drivers too have access to 3 downforce packages. So you can run low downforce, medium downforce or high downforce. Again, it could be a compromise what drivers take if they suffer through the infield and are fast on the straight, or vice versa. Go down short straight up to Redmond corner, slightly uphill to Hobbs corner, and around the penultimate corner, Mike Knight corner. I wonder who Mike Knight is. Then last corner, try to stay off the curb as much as possible to get a good exit onto the straight. I do wonder whether the draft effect will be good enough on that short straight. We did see in Suzuka that even on the large back straight, you had to be really tucked under the wing into the onto that straight, so this may prove very, very difficult. Onto the short straight, coming out of sector 1. Down to the hairpin corner, drop down, slight locking of tyres, and then slight uphill again temporarily, and then downhill again. So it's a little bit of a roller coaster. Piper corner, another short straight. Up to Redmond corner. Another corner where you brake on the downhill and you end up on the exit of the corner, going uphill. Let's see what time Nick Westy puts in. Smoking his tyres. Is this going to be a 1:13? We were in the low 1:13s before. As it goes to the top of the timesheets, we're 1:13.4. Zach Scobler is 0.3 behind. Oh, in fact, Robin Taylor nips up to the top with a 1:13.0. He's currently on provisional pole position. Carl Stroll puts a lap time in of 2.7. Costas with a purple. In fact, Costas Kazouris puts a pole time in 0.08 of a second, beating Taylor with just under 7 minutes gone. Tony Talviti picks up into 4th. So it's very, very tight at the top. I do wonder whether they are going to do 2 runs or just a blitz 1 lap and then come into the pits. It's a very short qualifying session, so there's not really much time to do much in a way of tactics, I suppose. You either fill up with fuel and keep circulating, maybe do a cool down lap and then go again. It looks like Costas is improving his time into the second sector, but slightly. He's abandoning that lap and coming into the pits. But that's 1:12.9. That is the fastest time we've seen so far, even from practice. So all drivers are improving all the time. It is quite a short pit in and pit exit. I think Tony may have fueled a bit short. He looked like he was rolling into the pits then. But as long as you come into the pits under your own power and come into your pit box, you should be fine. And Kanzuris coming out the pits. As you see, Carl Stroll. Looks like he's building up his lap. I don't think this one's going to be a fast one. So there's different tactics out there tonight. Into the uphill section. So it does seem like it's a bit of a mini roller coaster, and it does look like Carl is actually abandoning this lap. Again, it looked like he had short fueled. You see Ken Jagger across the line. He stays in 7th place. In fact, Ken Jagger he's got 2 teammates in this series. It's Bad Voices Racing, Ken Jagger, Ed Jones and Barrett Erickson. They are 7th, 8th and 9th. Yes, Costas comes across the line to start another fast lap. Can he improve? It's only 0.08 of a second in front of Taylor. And again, Taylor doesn't have to finish in front of these guys. He just has to not finish too far behind them. But bragging rights and all that. But that's a purple for Taylor in the first sector. So he wants pole. Maybe he wants to round out the season with a win, as he hasn't so far. So he was up in the first sector. He has lost out in the second sector. Let's see, there was a slight bit of oversteer coming through that final complex of corners. So I don't think the third sector is going to be any good. It didn't look like he improved his time. He does look very, very slippy out there. A lot of oversteer. And I think that now drivers are in quali, they have to put up with the downforce package they have chosen. Ken Jagger coming down towards the hairpin, downhill and then uphill. Robin Taylor is up by 0.04 of a second. Going into the middle sector. Piper corner. Up to what's called Rebben corner. And they touch the grass. Looks like he's staying off the curbs. There's no slight lock up there. No apparent oversteer. One slightly wide. He's purple in both sectors, but only by a very, very small margin. Let's see if this puts him on provisional pole with just under 2 minutes to go. Looks like the final sector just lost a bit too much time. Maybe it was coming into the penultimate corner. It did drop onto the grass a little. So it's Kansas that still leads on pole with Taylor second, Westy third, Salviti in fourth, that's Gobler in fifth, about 1 second back. Then we have Jagger sixth, Stroll in seventh, Jones in eighth, and Ericsson in ninth. And Robin Taylor going for another go. He's now 700ths away in the first sector. Still smoking those tyres. Bit of rally driving, it looks like. See what happens going through the second sector. He's now down in the second sector. So it looks like the second sector is proving a few problems. In fact, the last sector is only like 2-3 corners as he aborts that lap, as he wouldn't improve. He was 0.4 down on the pole time, and I don't think he could make that up in 3 corners. As Costas comes up the back straight, 900ths of a second. Actually on his own benchmark time. Slight bit of oversteer coming out of the hairpin as you head downhill. Piper corner, staying off the curbs, no particular problems. Up the tiny short straight. Uphill, he's now 400ths of a second up on his pole time. So, slight bit of oversteer coming down the hill into the penultimate corner, into the last corner. No drama. This could be an improvement. That's a 112.8, puts it even more out of reach. Does anyone have anything else? Taylor is in the pits. He's given up on pole. But does anyone else have anything left? So Talviti has nipped up to third. But that is a statement from Kansas. Now, as we've said before, Kansas can win the championship, but he has to finish first, and Taylor has to finish fifth or lower. So we'll have to see whether Taylor runs into trouble. So Taylor has to be very careful of either a DNF. You still get points for a DNF, but he has to be very careful with where he finishes. The lowest he can finish is 9th. And according to my points, we have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So the minimum Taylor can score is 20. So we bear that in mind. It looks like everyone has finished their laps. So we shall set the grid. And we shall look at the starting order. So, for our final race of the Super Formula Championship, or Super Formula Renault Japan Championship, it all comes down to this. It all comes down to the final race of the season. So, if we look at the starting order, Kansas puts in a statement coming up to first. Robin Taylor is second, championship leader. Tervoti third. Nick Westy fourth. And then we have Dats Gobler third in the championship. He's got fifth on the grid. Ken Jagger sixth. Carl Stroll seventh. Ed Jones is eighth. And Barrett Ericsson is ninth. So a couple of people trying out their practice starts. It is a standing start today. And there's a very short run to the first corner as well. Not much time to grab positions, but what we can say from the first complex of corners, it does go right, left, left and then right. You can go side by side, depending on if you have a willing participant. Whether anyone wants to risk it or not. But you'll be on the inside of the first corner, but you will lose out coming out of the first corner. Because the second corner is a left-hander. So we'll see what happens, whether people feel like they can go side by side or not. But I'm really looking forward to 60 minutes of racing. Are we going to see Taylor take this championship in commanding form? Or will he hang back? Because I believe he only needs to have 5th place. At minimum. Or was it at maximum? If he gets 5th, then Kanzuris does have to win to take the championship. So just to be safe, if Kanzuris wins, he maybe needs to be in 4th place. So he can't rest. He can't get into any trouble. You don't really want to race where you are having to fight back from the rear of the grid. But it's whether or not Taylor is putting things in a bit more championship perspective, or he wants to go out on a high. We'll have to see. But he hasn't, as I said, he hasn't won at all this season. But he hasn't been off the podium. I believe he has 2 second places and 3 third places. So it just depends whether he can. If he keeps that form, then he will take the championship tonight. So we're coming 2 minutes at the end of quali. It does look like these cars are very, very slippy. And I think we have found that a lot of drivers are just doing one stop. They basically cut the race down to 30-minute stints. Although we did see a couple of drivers pitting in, I think a little earlier, maybe to get out of traffic. Because at Twin Ring Motegi it was quite hard to follow another car. This circuit may be a little better with following another car. There's a few more straights on it. A few more chances to pass. But I think you're going to have to be very daring to pass through the middle sector. Got to have a very compliant dancing partner. A lot of the corners do... They're very similar. Very similar. They're right angles. Either going uphill, starting uphill and ending up downhill, or vice versa. But no, none of the very, very harsh bumps that we saw at the last round in Twin Ring Motegi. Thankfully. We wind down the last 30 seconds of warm-up. Now, if anything happens like the previous rounds, it has been action in the first 30 minutes. So whether or not we will see any incidents, hopefully not, because we want this championship decided to be clean. We don't really want any incidents that decide the championship. So we'll have to find out whether the championship protagonists will go all out, or will they play it safe? Will they be a bit more sedate and a bit more measured? But definitely if Kanzurus and Datskobler want to win, they have to, or want to win the championship rather, they have to win this race. But Taylor has the ability to maybe hang back and have a watching brief as we are heading to the grid. So as we see everyone line up, there's no formation lap, it is just a standing start. There is the poleman of Kanzurus, with Taylor in second place. Revs rise and 60 minutes of action. Off we go. Good start for Kanzurus off pole. Taylor doesn't have an answer. He's defending from behind. Lock tyres into turn one. Looks like Kanzurus is away, with Taylor in second, so no drama. Taylor does have his teammate behind. Are there team orders between those two? But Kanzurus is away and has already pulled a 1.1 second gap uphill onto the back straight. No particular dramas. It looks like everyone has got through okay. As we go downhill for the first time into the hairpin. Kanzurus is streaking out a 2 second gap, putting down a marker. He wants this championship. As we drop back to the main pack, it looks like Nick Westy is all over the back of Taylor. Maybe there isn't any team orders, but Taylor needs to stay in podium positions. So you wonder whether there has been talk with Nick Westy and Robin Taylor being teammates. So no drastic moves. Rear gunner perhaps for Taylor. Defending from Datskobler behind. As Nick Westy runs a little bit wide, which gives Taylor a bit more of a breakaway. Now Kanzurus leading by 3.5 seconds. He's got a lot of pace. As Kanzurus leads, Taylor second, Westy in third, Datskobler following in fourth, and Talviti in fifth. It looks like this group of 5 cars, in fact second to fifth, have broken away from the rest of the pack. If we look back to the second group of cars, Ken Jagger all on his own. Looks like Straw bringing up 7th place just behind. You see the leader coming over the line, putting in a 1:19.0. The first lap, 1:14, in fact 1:14.2. So 2 seconds slower than, or maybe 1.5 seconds slower. But he's putting down a marker and saying, I want this win. I don't care what anyone else wants to do. I want this win. He's doing as much as possible to win this championship. Now, as we said before, if Kanzurus does win, Taylor is doing enough to win the championship. Currently in second place. If he drops to 5th or lower, then Kanzurus has won the championship. But Kanzurus is putting a marker down and saying, yes, I want this. We drop back to Taylor. Looks like he is pacing himself. No particular dramas. He is a second slower than the leader, so maybe he is conserving tyres for later in the race. But that is his teammate just behind of Nick Westy, holding station, providing a rear gunner, as it were. But second and third have have dropped her away from, or have pushed away from 4th place. That Scobbler looks like he's struggling in 4th. Now 8 seconds behind the leader. It looks like there were a couple of big winners. Tony Talviti actually dropped 2 places on the start. That Scobbler and Westy went up 1 position from the start. Look at glowing disc brakes of Taylor. He dropped back to 4th and 5th. So Dat Scobbler is now falling into the clutches of Tony Talviti. And again, Tony Talviti is 10th in the championship at the moment. He's got nothing to lose. Dat Scobbler does. Oh, slight bit of oversteer and lets Tony through. Pushing a bit too hard there. It looks like the pressure worked. So with 5 minutes gone, Kanzouras has pulled out of 5 at the second lead. All on his own out in front. Putting in his best lap times of 1:14. His last lap time did drop back to the 1:15, so maybe the pushing on the tyres early on has... I believe they are catching a lapped car already, so maybe... It looks like Barrett Eriksson, I believe. Barrett Eriksson maybe had a few problems near the start. So Nick Westy holding station behind his teammate of Robin Taylor. As we see in the background, Tony just overtaking Barrett Eriksson. I wonder whether Barrett Eriksson has damage there, because he is going very, very slowly. Taylor is letting Nick Westy by, it looks like. Maybe Taylor is decided that pacing himself is the way to go. Doesn't want anyone behind in his mirrors to put him off. He is doing enough for the championship at the moment. Kanzouras is leading 40 points on the line. But Robin, if he finishes in this place, he will be champion. We've got to hope that, or he has to hope that he finishes 5th or higher. Well, in fact, 4th place. So he's doing enough, but he can't drop back any further than 4th place. We look back to Dat Scobbler, who's recovering after that tiny little off. Unfortunately, letting Talviti just ahead. So they drop back to the low 115s. Lauren Taylor has dropped back to the 116s now, so maybe he is saving his tyres for the latter half of the race, or just not pushing. The latter half of the grid has spaced out quite a lot. We'll probably look to the pit stops to spice things up, so it does depend how people deal with their pit stops. Mistakes can still happen. A slight spin, slight lack of concentration, and off comes a rear or a front wing. It's easily done, as we've seen from previous races, and that does take about 10 to 15 seconds to replace. But as I said, it is a mandatory tyre stop. There is no refueling in this race, so they are running the same fuel load. Unless some people have gone light and are fuel saving. Looks like Tony Talviti is catching up to the back of Robin Taylor. He's not far away. With Dat Scobbler 2 seconds adrift of Tony at the moment. does seem to gain down the main straight, so maybe Datsgobler is running a shorter wing than Tony in front. So if we look at Robin Taylor's lap times, last time out he did a 1:15.6. Tony just behind did a 1:15.4. So Tony is catching, but very, very slowly. The whole field covered by about 35 seconds. Down the hill into the hairpin corner. Uphill into this section. Into Piper corner. And up the short straight. We have 3 drivers within that short straight there. And if we look at the lap times of the top 2, Kanzuris in the lead is now down to the 1:15.4 range. Nick Westy slightly faster that time around, 1:15.2. So he's edging closer to the leader. And if Westy does overtake Kanzuris, it means the championship will be basically decided. But Tony is really hounding Taylor. Now I wonder whether Taylor will err on caution here and let Tony by, because 4th place is still enough. So he may decide to let Tony by as we go on board. Looks like Tony's putting in a move down the hill, and I think Taylor just let him by. That was a good move by Tony. That is very tricky coming down the hill into that current braking zone. So Taylor being very, very cautious, but you can't drop back more than 4th place. I think he probably had done these calculations there. He's probably got a post-it note on his monitor saying, don't finish lower than 4th. But he does have an ace in his pocket with Westy. He's very, very slowly catching up to Kanzuris in front. He did break away into the lead early on from pole position. He's now got just under a 5-second lead. But Taylor can't be too cautious. Datsgobler could be the spoiler here. If Taylor has any particular problems, Datsgobler can grab that 4th place, which would mean the championship would go to Kanzuris. But it does just depend on what happens in these pit stops with just under 48 minutes to go. Who is going to be the first to blink? There's only been one pit stop so far. Looks like Barrett Eriksson had to pit, presumably maybe for damage. So 3rd, 4th and 5th just in the background. If we look at their leader, he has got a clear track in front and behind. That is 2nd place, you just see behind. It's now down to 4.5 seconds, so Westy is catching the leader. As Taylor runs a bit wide. This could have championship consequences. Taylor has it all to lose, Datsgobler has it all to gain. But how pushy does he want to be? Down into this 2nd part of the circuit, uphill onto the short straight. He's now in draft range. I don't think Taylor can be as sedate, or can't really afford to let Datsgobler by. The hairpin down into this section, slight locking of tyres. Maybe the slower pace of Datsgobler earlier on, he's saved a bit more tyres, but he is shadowing the current championship leader. Slight bit of oversteer, looks like he's pushing really hard, leaving black lines on the circuit. And you've got to wonder as well, between these two, this could decide the championship for Taylor. Between these two, who pits first? As the lead between Kanzuras and Westy is now down to 4 seconds, just under 4 seconds. As we're looking at this battle for 4th and 5th. Which is currently 1st in the championship and 3rd in the championship respectively. Closest battle on track right now, and it does have championship championship connotations. Down the hill into the hairpin. No real dramas. But this is putting Taylor under a lot of pressure. He's going to have to put a lot of trust in his teammate if that Scobbler does get by. Nick Westy does have to pass Kanzuras for Taylor to take the championship. So we've got a nail-biting 45 minutes of racing to go. I did think that Scobbler was going to jump into the pits then a little bit early. Put down the main straight for another toe. He's not quite close enough, so he's 0.7 behind. As Taylor dips onto the grass, coming into the braking zone. Luckily got away with that, going through the wide line into turn 1, but you don't want to do that too often. But it looks like the pressure is working. So with just 45 minutes to go, it is still Kanzuras leading. Westy now 3.5 seconds behind. With Tauviti 9.5 seconds. As we see, that Scobbler going for a slight move up the inside. He was slightly late there though. I think he was thought about ducking to the inside to put a fake move in. But in the end it looked like got caught out with Taylor's braking, and he had to go with it. But Robin did close the door. So he took a try at it. It was a good effort. It didn't quite pull off. It's lucky he could run over the curb a little to avoid locking wheels, or interlocking wheels rather. But closest battle on the track at the moment. So first and second are now 2 seconds apart. We can probably see from the leader. You see Nick Westy just behind. Now how risky does Kanzuras wants to be? He needs to hold on to this first place. He's probably watching what's happened between Taylor and Scobbler. If I look at the predictions, if Kanzuras drops down to second, then Taylor can be 7th or lower. Or rather, he has to be... If he is 7th or lower, then Kanzuras wins the championship. So he needs to keep this lead. So we see the leader come across the line with 42 minutes to go. So last time out, it lap time of 1:15.8. Westy was slightly quicker. And Tauviti back in 3rd. He's matching the times of the leaders, but he has a clear track, so Westy is really pushing. This could decide the championship for his teammate. So that Scobbler is really pushing. He knows he has to get past Taylor. Is there going to be an undercut? Is there going to be an undercut so he can get past? The same with Westy as well. Who's going to blink first between Kanzuras and Westy? So heavy on the loud pedal. Because it looks like you can get within about 0.7. Maybe it is quite difficult to follow through the infield section. pushing on with 40 minutes to go. Who's going to be the first to blink? We did see a couple of people at Motegi pitting with 40 minutes or so to go. Who's going to pit early? Who's going to blink first? Looks like there's a bit of stalemate between the first and second here. Again, locking the tyres coming into the hairpin. Kanzurus is keeping it sedate, no locking of tyres or oversteer for him. Again, Westy can push it. Down board with Westy coming through the final turns. 40 minutes remaining. Looks like Kanzurus had a bit of trouble coming out of that final corner. Not quite close enough. I think you're going to probably need to be within 0.4 or 0.3 to even have a chance to get down the inside for turn 1. But again, even if you're down the inside for turn 1, doesn't mean you're going to have the line for turn 2, which is a left-hander. So 0.8 of a second coming into sector 2. So Westy showing himself in the mirrors, downhill into the hairpin. Tyres looking in good condition, doesn't look like there's any particular wear, although they are locking tyres a lot through Piper Corner, up the short straight, up to Redmond Corner. Uphill into this final section for Hobbs Corner. This is where we'd seen a lot of oversteer and a lot of problems for people putting down rubber. Now downhill into the final 2 corners. Slightly missing the apex for Costas there. Now within 0.5 of a second. Let's see how close he gets. Not close enough. So it looks like he's going to be closer, but it looks like he's maybe a bit better in sector 2. Bit better in sector 2. It does look like 4th and 5th have spread out a little. The gap between Taylor and Datskobler has risen to about 2 seconds. So maybe Datskobler was thinking of the long game. Will there be any complications in the pit stops, or will there be any complications with the pit stops or lapped cars? It's a slight tardy exit for Kanzurus there. Nick Westy gets very, very close through these left-hander rather. As you see, Barrett Eriksson, a lapped car. He's now a lap down. He's going to be put 2 laps down by the leader. There's Nick Westy. Oh, it's a slight oversteer! That's exactly what Kanzurus didn't want. So Nick Westy is doing Robin Taylor a solid here. As Kanzurus comes in the pits, he's finally said, I don't want any more of these tyres. That's it. So how good is this pit stop going to be? As he hears the first 2 pits. With 37 minutes gone. Rather 37 minutes to go. But who's going to be the first blink between Robin Taylor and Datskobler? As those positions could change through the pits. As we see, Tony Talviti is pitting as well from 3rd place. Talviti comes out in 6th place, only 2 seconds behind Jagger. Strange, it never records it on my UI, the pit stops. But we'll keep that in mind. Talviti has pitted. And Costas Kanzurus has pitted, but he did have a half spin on his pit entry. Whether that's going to cost him the championship. It's a costly error. Could have stayed ahead of Westy. But is Westy going to do the overcut? So if we look at the times for Kanzurus, we'll have to wait until they cross the line for their next lap. to see what his outlap is. So last time around, Nick Westy did a 1:15.7. As Taylor hits the grass again, he's got to be very careful with that entry to that corner. As we have Dat Skobler just waiting for a mistake. So Kantzouras on tyre warm-up. He's done a 1:16.8. So whether or not he can bring that time back to the 1:15s, I imagine you can. He is the fastest, has put in the fastest lap time of anyone in this race so far for 1:14.2. But that was the first 2 or 3 laps of the race. So Dat Skobler is going for another run on Taylor. He could be the spoiler, but again Taylor will have to drop back a couple more positions if Kantzouras can't get back up to the lead again. As Talviti on newer tyres overtakes Jagger. Talviti back up to 5th place. But the top 3 have not pitted. Who is going to be the first to duck in the pits? I think if we look last time around, so Dat Skobler and Robin are in 1:16, the low 1:16s. Kantzouras has now put in the fastest lap time of the race, 1:14.1. So Nick Westy has to pit soon. So are we going to see Nick Westy pit this lap or the next? At the moment he is hemorrhaging lap time by 1 second a lap if he continues. It looks like a lapped car just coming into the pits in front of him. That is 8th place of Jones, so he doesn't pit this time around. Let's see what lap time he does. That's a 1:16, so he's losing 2 seconds a lap. Will that be enough for Kantzouras to take the lead again? As we said, I think that's Dat Skobler coming into the pits. So Dat Skobler going for an undercut. So let's keep an eye on Dat Skobler as well. Will he come out in traffic? As Dat Skobler is coming out the pits in 6th place. Looks like he has a clear track. He has to make the most of these tyres. As on new tyres, Tony Talviti puts in a 1:14.1. So Kantzouras didn't do it. He's now stuck behind his championship contender, who has not pitted. So Taylor's in a good... Well, I was going to say a good position. He doesn't need to let him by. As he ducks into the pits. Releases Kantzouras. Again, Nick Westy. So 1:15.2 the last time out. He has not put in fast times. Whether that outlap for Kantzouras slowed him down. That was a 1:15.5 the last time around. So it slowed him down by about a second. But Nick Westy still is not... Is he coming into the pits this lap as Robin Taylor comes out in 6th place? Championship consequences. Is that Dat Skobler ahead? The undercut has worked, so Taylor has been overtaken by Dat Skobler. Championship consequences. He has to push. I think Barrett Eriksson is staying out of the way of the championship there. Might see. I think that Eriksson is going very, very slow. So Taylor now down to 6th. Nick Wesley leading by 20 seconds. So Nick Wesley did a 1:15.6 that last time around. And Costa did a 1:14.4. So Nick Wesley is hemorrhaging lap time. He wants the fresher tyres at the end. Robin Taylor coming across the line in 6th place with fresh tyres. Looks like he may have hit some track limits that time around. And it looks like 4th place Jagger has had an off in the 2nd sector. Let's drop Jagger down. That's Cobbler putting in a lap time of a personal best of 1:15.2. Pulling away slightly for Robin Taylor. How much does Robin Taylor want this? Westy is pitting. Westy is pitting. Let's see. It looks like he's down. But it looks like Kanzurus on the main straight is going to overtake back into the lead. He gets past Stroll on pit exit as well. That's perfect. So he will have better tyres at the end. But Taylor, I think, now knows the connotations of this championship. Now that Kanzurus leads, he has to get past Dax Cobbler for this championship. This is championship deciding. So Kanzurus leads. Taylor has to get 4th or better. This last 28 minutes is going to be fascinating. How brave does he want to be in on the brakes? This looks like it could be a dive. No, he didn't really feel brave enough. I think he could possibly defend into this section. That Scobbler runs slightly wide. Going downhill, short straight. Into the uphill 3rd sector. Let's hope for no contact. What is to stay clean. So as it stands, Kanzurus will be champion. If Robin Taylor cannot pass that Scobbler ahead for 4th place. Kanzurus is leading from Tony Talviti in 2nd. I believe we did see Talviti in the pits. Or did we not? Talviti looks like he's only 3 seconds behind the leader. But it doesn't look like he has pitted from my UI. I can never trust Taylor again. It's a little bit of a fake to the inside, but quite close enough. There is a yellow in sector 2. Looks like it's cleared quite quickly. Kanzurus is really... Oh, that Scobbler is having trouble with this sector. Taylor's still not close enough to capitalise on that slight mistake. I believe that is probably the lapped car of Ed Jones ahead. As we drop back to Nick Westy in 3rd. Drop behind Tony Talviti, who I believe has not pitted. Robin Taylor locking tyres into turn 1. Now past that lapped car. That's Ed Jones in 8th. Nick Westy still shadowing Tony. Nick Westy is now being held up by Talviti here. He's going board. He's slightly slow coming out of that corner. Got a little bit awkward. So Tony, that last time, it's not slow, it's not a slouch. Last time out, Tony did a 1:14.7. So it's a very, very quick pace. But it looks like Tony is very slow into that final corner, which backed up Westy. Dropping down to the 1:16s. So this is slowing Westy down. It's letting Kanzurus get away by 4 seconds or so. Nick Westy is desperate to get past. If Tony is on old tyres, he is really, really struggling. He's defending to the inside. I don't think that was very kind, was it? Tony defended to the inside and pushed into Tony there. I think the stewards might want to have a look at that. Meanwhile, Datskobler is pushing a little bit of a gap on Taylor. That move did look a little bit desperate. It did look like Tony was struggling a little bit, maybe with worn tyres. So he was slow on the exit of the turns. Datskobler in 4th. As it stands, Kanzurus could take this series. Taylor has to get past Datskobler to win this championship. If I've done my maths correctly. So with 23 minutes to go, it's Kanzurus leads by 4.2 seconds. Westy in 2nd. Salviti in 3rd, who I believe has not pitted. Datskobler in at 4th, who we're looking at. And Taylor in 5th. Stroll in 6th. Jagger in 7th. Jones in 8th. And Beric Eriksson in 9th. So Taylor seems to close in this second sector quite dramatically. It looks like Kanzurus might have this sort of sequence of corners a bit neater than he did. I wonder how tyre wear is going to factor into this. They only pitted a couple of laps apart. Datskobler was able to jump Taylor in the pit stops, but Taylor is back on his tail. Slight slower exit coming onto the straight. Will Taylor have a go into turn 1? Not quite close enough. Not quite close enough. Maybe if you can hang it wide round turn 1 and probably be quite defensive. Is Datskobler going to defend to the inside for this uphill right-hander? Doesn't feel the need. No oversteer moments. Now coming down onto the short straight. Is Taylor close enough to have a go at the inside? This is where Westy and Salviti did come into contact. Kanzurus does lead by 3.5 seconds. He needs to stay there. So last lap times, Kanzurus did a 1:14.9. Westy is catching. His lap time was a 1:14.5. I wonder if there will be any protests after the race, because this could have championship consequences. Taylor is dropping back behind Datskobler, maybe cooling his tyres a little to have a bit more of a go later on in the race. Now the lead is down to 2.8 seconds. So if we look at the leader, maybe we'll see Nick Westy shadowing in the background. Just coming into shot there, that was Nick Westy in the red car. Down to 2.4 seconds. Kanzurus did have a bit of a scrappy lap that time. As we did say that Nick Westy would have better tyres in the latter half of this race, but really ran out of rubber to even have a go at Kanzurus up front. Now down to 2 seconds. No particular dramas coming through turn 1 and turn 2. As Nick Westy has put a lap time, fastest lap of the race, at a 1:14.0. Is he going to run out of tyres by the time he gets up to the rear end of Kanzurus? Let's hope there's not going to be any contact. I'd maybe feel slightly aggrieved if I was Talviti, maybe. Maybe it was a bit of a harsh defence down that main straight, rather the back straight. Costa still leads from Nick Westy 1.5 seconds. So he's getting closer. He's got 19 minutes to find his way past. He does look like he has a traction advantage, but there's no particular dramas for Kanzurus. He's not looking untidy, not looking... No oversteer moments. You see Nick Westy shadowing him into turn 1s and turn 2. So the battle for 4th and 5th place is still not over. Looks like Taylor did take a little bit of a breather. He needs to push on and pass that Scobbler if he is to win this championship. But if Nick Westy passed his Kanzurus, then this will give Taylor the championship, unless something dramatic happens later on in the race. 18 minutes to go. And coming across the lapped car of Barrett Ericsson on the short straight. Looks like he's having a bit of a nightmare race. Westy getting very, very close. Don't want any oversteer moments like that coming out of the final sequence of corners. Nick Westy's within 0.5 of a second coming out of this final turn. Is that close enough into turn 1? Doesn't look like it. Closes so quickly on the brakes. Slight knocking of tyres. Quite close enough. Again, Kanzurus can lose a lot. Nick Westy can gain. Well, in championship terms, Nick Westy's not going to gain. He might gain a third. He did have a look up the inside, but not quite close enough. So second and third and fourth, I believe, are still up for grabs. But again, the championship is not over. So I think Kanzurus has got to be sensible here. He can't afford an accident. He also can't afford to let Westy by. So he's got to be as clean and as defensive as possible. So within 0.5 of a second, Westy showing himself in the mirror. According to the stand, Kanzurus did have a win last time out. He had a great pace at Motegi. So carrying on this form into Okayama. As we still see Taylor shadowing Dat Scobbler. He needs this place. So in terms of championship connotations, if Nick Westy gets past Kanzurus, then Taylor clinches the championship. And Nick Westy is Robin Taylor's teammate. So this is teammates helping each other in the championship. Slightly slow onto the main straight now within 0.3 of a second. Is it going to be a dive into turn 1? Not quite close enough. And stay quite wide in coming out of turn 1. And still keep the speed going into turn 2. You wonder whether Taylor and Westy are on pit radio, updating each other on championship consequences. Again, Kantzuris is slightly early on the braking point, but he's not ruining his tyres. Dropping down into this second sector. Hard on the brakes, coming uphill again into the final sector. Through Hobbs corner. Black lines being left, so within 0.3 last lap. Is it closer this time? He needs to get a good exit onto the straight. 0.6 this time, it's not close enough. Just over 14 minutes to go. The championship is still not decided. So Taylor needs to get past. If Westy does not get past Kantzuris, then Taylor needs to get past Dax Gobbler in front. Kantzuris takes a wide line coming onto the back straight. And Westy at 0.6 behind. Will this lap car get involved? I think that's Barrett Ericsson again. Westy is locking those tyres. Those tyres are probably not in the best of conditions. The top two have dropped back to the low 115s. Kantzuris slightly quicker than Westy that time around. Kantzuris will be begging Ericsson to get out the way. And he does so. Slightly easier for Kantzuris to get by into these final two turns. He's pulled out 0.6 of a second, so yes, Westy is not close enough. 1:15.1, matching each other's lap times. Again, it looks like Taylor has dropped back from Dax Gobbler by 1.8 seconds. He'll be taking another breather for one final push into the last 10 minutes. I thought this was a done deal. I thought that if I've done my maths correctly, Kantzuris is doing everything he needs to do, staying out in the lead. He's doing the absolute maximum. Let's hope it stays clean. So just over 12 minutes to go. Kantzuris leads by about 0.7 of a second from Nick Westy. Talviti in third, 17 seconds back. So Tony Talviti must have pitted. Must have. That's Gobbler still holding on to fourth from Robin Taylor, the championship leader. In fifth, who may lose the championship in the final round. King Jagger a lap off the place in sixth. Carl Stroh in seventh. Ed Jones eighth. And Ericsson 2 laps down in ninth. I believe everyone has done their pit stops. That drama is out the way, but the drama of the championship is still to be decided. Nick Westy again locking up into this hairpin. Has he finally run out of rubber? Costas has upped the pace to 1:14.9. Nick Westy has matched his lap time with a 1:14.9. This has championship consequences. Kanzuras cannot let Westy by. As Westy slip onto the grass a little, dropping back. 10 minutes to go. So it looks like 0.3 of a second. Going to need to be within 0.3 of a second to get into draft. And maybe take a dive into turn 1. But even if you do have a dive down into turn 1, the car in front has still got the line for turn 2. So I believe it's easily defended. So are drivers thinking about that? Are they running different downforce packages? Did Kanzuras opt for a lower downforce package to have a bigger straight line speed to keep out of trouble along these short straights? Into the final sector, the uphill sector. Looks like he's dropped back 0.5 of a second. So Kanzuras needs to keep it clean in this final turn. No dramas, no oversteer moments. Otherwise it would let Nick Westy have a run onto the straight and into turn 1. As we said before, this has championship consequences. If Westy gets past Kanzuras, it hands Nick, his teammate Robin Taylor, the championship. But Taylor can take the championship by himself if he can get past Dax Gobler in 4th. He's currently 1 second adrift. Down into this hairpin. This looks like Nick Westy is pushing so hard into that hairpin. Into this section, a bit scrappy. Up this short straight and into the uphill final 3rd sector. No dramas, no oversteer moments. Keep it clean. Laying down a little bit of rubber. They've now dropped their lap times down to the low 115s, but they are still matching each other's lap times. Slightly slower onto the main straight, but still what close behind with 8 minutes to go. This is still not decided. Has Taylor finally run out of tyres and he's leaving it up to his teammate? If Taylor does not move up to 4th, then it is Kanzuras' championship. Slightly wide coming onto the main straight. Is this the first time that Kanzuras has to go defensive? He does. Move down into the hairpin. Kanzuras cannot hold it round the outside. This could have championship consequences. Has Kanzuras just lost the championship? I'd be interested to see if there are any stewards' inquiries about the coming together between Tauviti and Nick Westy. It could decide things. So it looked like a slight mistake from Kanzuras coming onto the short straight. He didn't defend enough. So Robin Taylor coming past Barrett Eriksson again in 5th place. At this point, it looks like he will take the championship if it stays like this. I could do my quick calculations and check the points. So Nick Westy would have 40 points. Kanzuras will have 36 points. Tauviti will have 33 points. And Dax Gobler will have 30 points. will have 28 points. So as it stands, Taylor will win this championship if everyone stays where they are. It looks like Nick Westy has pulled out 2.3 seconds. So Taylor does not need to pass that Scobbler to take the championship. But he cannot drop positions. He is pretty safe from behind. Jagger is 1 lap behind in 6th, so he doesn't need to push. So we're just under 5 minutes to go. Is that the championship wrapped up? Does Kansas have anything left? Looks like maybe Taylor still wants to finish his run with a strong finish, but he doesn't need to. And he doesn't really want to have an accident and spend time in the pits. I wonder if that post-it note on his monitor telling him about the point situation. Maybe it's fallen off. Maybe he's not realised that he can win the championship if he stays where he is. Westy has pulled out a 3.8 second lead. The last time out, Nick Westy did a 1:15.6. Costas did a 1:16.5. I wonder whether Costas has just run out of tyres. He did pit earlier than Westy and was able to undercut and get the position. But in the long run, it did not work out. So Taylor has to be very, very careful. He can't afford damage. I'm not sure why he's risking it. 3 minutes to go. Maybe this is pride. And it looks like Tony is just ahead as well. I think that either Tony pitted really, really early, pitted late. The UI is probably lying to me again. It hasn't told me anything about Tony's pit. So last time around, or is that Taylor? Taylor oversteer onto the final, out of the final turn. Is there any damage? Is there any damage? If he has damage and he is limping around, championship consequences in the final 2 minutes. Tony Talviti is doing 1:15. He's matching the leader's pace of 1:15.2. That's Cobbler just behind a 1:15.4. With Taylor's mistake, drops down to a 1:17.5. Nick Westy has now pulled out a 7-second lead. He had pace in hand, it seems. So we see Carl Struhl to be lapped by the leader in seventh place. So we see Nick Westy coming out the final turn, the first turn rather. It looks like there's going to be 2 laps left after this. Robin Taylor in 5th. Doesn't look like there's any dramas. No, his wings are still attached. He may have damage, but he just needs to carry it home. He's not in danger of losing position. According to predictions, if Kanzuras finishes second, then Taylor would have to drop down to 7th or lower. But it looks like that's not going to be the case. So we come through the final sector of the lap. Is Nick Westy going to push it for one more lap? Coming down into the hairpin, which has caused so much drama this evening. See Ken Jagger coming onto the back straight. Lap down from Taylor. Not looking to challenge him at all. As we see Ed Jones coming down to the final turns in 8th. Not seeing a lot of Ed Jones today. Looks like he's struggled quite a lot. As we see Nick Westy coming through the first sector of what will be the last lap. Scobbler has had a strong drive for 4th place. He made up places at the start. And he could have been a championship spoiler. But instead, Nick Westy has done his teammate a solid. And gone for the win. I still feel like there may be some stewards' inquiries about the coming together between Talviti and Westy. Let's hope there's no fisticuffs in the pits. As Nick Westy comes through the final 2 turns, the clock has run out. This should be the final corner. Nick Westy comes across the line to win the final round of the Super Formula Japan Championship. Kanzuris rounds the final corner. He's going to come across the line in the end, about 8.5 seconds adrift. Ed Jones, he's been lapped, he's going to come across the line in 8th. Barrett Eriksson just coming through the final few corners. Looks like he's had a bit of a nightmare. And it does look like Dat Scobbler was actually gone up to 3rd. Was there a bit of drama in the final part of the lap that Talviti let Dat Scobbler through? Don't think that will have championship consequences, but we will have to see. So, let's total the points. If we go back, let's see what the final standings are. So if we go to our session results. So Nick Westy comes away with the win. We're going to do some quick championship math as well. So Nick Westy comes away with the win. That's 40 points for Nick Westy. Kanzuris comes away with 2nd, which is 36 points. Dat Scobbler in the end comes away with 3rd. So he gets a podium in the last round. That's 33 points. Talviti takes points away from the championship leader, but I don't think it's going to make a difference. So Tony Talviti has 30 points. The championship leader comes away with 28 points. It hasn't changed the championship order too much. So it looks like we have our championship winner by just 4 points. Robin Taylor is the champion of the Super Formula Renault Championship for 2024. Kanzuris put up a valiant fight for what ended up being 2nd in the championship, staying as is from the final round. 3rd in the championship is Mate Daxtobler. And 4th in the championship is Nick Westy. And rounding out 5th in the championship, Tony actually may have jumped up a few places. I haven't got all of the points. So I don't think that Tony has finished in 5th, according to my table. But an exciting final round. It went down to the wire. I wasn't thinking it was going to go down to the wire, but in the end, it did. It did. We'll have to see if there's any stewards' inquiries about contact that was made with drivers. But hopefully it all remains clean. And there are no controversial outcomes. But wow, what a race and what a season. What a season. So it all started in Fuji. Went to Suzuka for round 2. Autopolis round 3. Sugo round 4. Twin Wing Motegi round 5. And the last championship decider was in Okayama for round 6. What a race. What a race. So I'm hoping that everyone has a nice Christmas. This is the last time I will be streaming this year before Christmas, I believe. I may do a little stream at the start. But it's been fun. It's been very, very fun doing something a little bit different. Rather than being behind the wheel, I've been behind the microphone, and I hope you enjoyed my coverage. We did have a few technical problems in the earlier races, but we seem to have knocked that on the head, and we've got it sorted. So the next series upcoming, we have some Indy cars for next year. So hopefully you will join Sim Racing Online and sign up, and maybe you can be on broadcast as well. So that's it for me for 2024. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.